I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California. Member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. It's going to be a special show today, folks. We're going to do some postulating. It's going to be a strange story, or maybe not so strange. We're going to take the reality we're living in right now and try to project where things are going to go. And there's a few things in the mix. We've got some market data to back up these theories. So we'll see. So cinch your tinfoil hat extra tight. Shine up your crystal ball. Let the tea leaves settle at the bottom of your favorite mug, because we are about to go into the future. We're going to kick the TARDIS into high gear, pulling the DeLorean behind it. I'm trying to think of other time things. I'm going to stop doing that now. I apologize. So here we are. We are at the end of June, and June's numbers are going to be interesting. I have kept myself from looking at June's numbers. With May, I was obsessing with what was going on, and I've side glanced a few pieces of data. I've read some articles on things going on in the real estate world in general, and I am concerned. I was reading an article the other day about how, 2022 is not 2008 because so much of the lending then was adjustable, right? Because remember, as we went into the downturn, mortgage rates were around 6%, right? 2006, 2007, mortgage rates were about where they are now. So people were doing variable rates. And there's a couple of things going on right now that make me think we are about to completely flip on its head this argument that we don't need to worry about 2022 because it's not like 2008, because we are in the moment making it 2008. Now, for those of you who've been listeners to the show for a long time, a couple of things are going to occur to you. First, that goofy little intro that I just used from the Rocky Horror Picture Show was one I used way back in 2008, 2009, when we would do this kind of thing and we were projecting what would happen. So if any of you caught it, congrats. If you've been listening that long, I really owe you a beer or a coffee, whatever your preference might be. But we've got some interesting roads ahead. So let's set the ground truth here on what is happening. So right now, as we hear from lenders, adjustable rate mortgages are the thing. Now, those of you who've been paying attention to me know that I've been telling you, do not do an adjustable rate mortgage. The primary reason being, it simply locks in your housing costs. Your housing costs get locked in at that fixed rate. You are good to go. But here's the problem. In addition to that, is that with interest rates doing what interest rates are doing, if you get an adjustable rate mortgage, your rate is going to adjust. And when it does, you're going to be sadly surprised as your costs go up. So that's one thing. So adjustable rate mortgages are now the thing. Despite the fact, according to national numbers, we've seen about a 50% decline in underwritten mortgages. Those mortgages are by and large adjustable rate mortgages. Now, the data that I've seen when I do a Google search on this is that back in April and May, they had already seen adjustable rate mortgages double. in the terms of the number of people using them, which was probably not a huge number because I'm doubting that there were a whole lot of people going for adjustable rate mortgages to begin with. But anecdotally, I've talked to several local lenders who say 80% of the loans they're doing right now are adjustable rate mortgages. Now, if I know I've got listeners who are lenders, so I want to hear from you, whether you are watching this on YouTube, you're watching it, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or you're going to go check it out on my website. Comments are turned on. So feel free to comment on the show notes for this show and ask and answer the question. How many loans that you're underwriting are tending to be adjustable rate mortgages? Now, the lenders that I have talked to are all local. So we're talking Silicon Valley people. We're talking most of them are doing loans in the Santa Clara County area. For those of you who aren't familiar with the area, Santa Clara County is really the heart of Silicon Valley. I know everyone wants to talk about Palo Alto and those places, but those aren't really Silicon Valley. It's really Santa Clara County where we have Cupertino and Santa Clara and San Jose. But anyway, taking that as the truth, or at least taking it as the local truth, right? Because as we all know, some of the bigger markets are the ones that cause the biggest amount of trouble, right? Everybody wants to invest in Silicon Valley. That's where you're supposed to get your money's worth, right? When you're investing in properties. Now, here is something else that's happening at the same time. Home prices have not gone down. So all of these sales that are happening since adjustable rate mortgages became more popular, and granted, it's only been, back when interest rates have doubled in the last year, right? We were at 3 point something. Now we're at 6 point something. In fact, we were at 2.5. I was shopping for a refi this time last year. I'm not even sure how much. I would like to look up how much rates have just jumped since January. I'll bet that's a ridiculous number. That may even be a more relevant number. But anyway, I digress. Sorry, the shiny things distract me. So at the same time, adjustable rate mortgages are on the rise and people are embracing them more. This is not a moment when people are financing their home and paying less, right? Adjustable rate mortgages are happening as people are buying at the top of the market. Now, granted, all the things that were going on prior to the uptick in interest rates this year, those folks all got fixed, right? Because it was just, the deal was too good. There wasn't even enough of a difference between an adjustable rate and a fixed to really make it even worth doing. But right now, if you do the math on what the typical interest rate is, the 6 point whatever it is, you find that on average, when you run the average numbers for the average purchase in the country, the additional amount people are having to pay per month just because interest rates have gone up is something in the neighborhood of $700 to $800 a month. That is a big chunk of change for an awful lot of folks, for the vast majority of folks. So something's got to give. Their expectations on what they're going to buy, their expectations on the loan they're going to get, or on the seller side, in order to accommodate a marketplace that is shrinking, they need to adjust their price downward. But we have not seen that happen at the mainstream level. So the point I'm trying to get through here is, while everyone was saying, well, we don't need to worry so much about 2022 because we are not dominated by adjustable rate mortgages as we were then. I actually think that's a little bit of a feeble comparison, to be super honest. But if we take them at face value and we just run with that, well, right now we are filling the adjustable rate mortgage bucket with loans at the peak. So what happens when property values go down? And there's another article that I saw within the last few days where some areas have seen prices drop on homes to the tune of nearly 20%. I think when I was looking at those numbers, the highest one was 18%, but that's where we are now. So we all know where that weird tipping point is, right? Once we get to the point where we have folks who are recent purchasers of homes, so as little skin in the game as possible, but with 20% down, as soon as they've reached that 20% decline in home value, they're officially upside down, right? So while this isn't something that's going to mature into a serious issue before the end of the year, maybe we all need to mark 2022 as the year it started again. So my concern is over the next year, a couple of things are going to happen. Now, interest rates are going to continue to go up. They have to. Of course, it depends on what problem they decide to solve first. We've talked about this before. If you want to cure inflation, you raise interest rates. But raising interest rates tends to cause recession. If you want to solve recession, you have to lower interest rates. So you fix one and exacerbate the other. So I guess you could argue that since inflation came first, inflation arrived first, we would need to aggressively try to address inflation before we really get into recession. And right now, it's an academic discussion as to whether or not we're officially in recession. There are different metrics that need to be met. But as I've said before, and I think I mentioned it in the last Coffee and Real Estate we did, it's a little goofy to argue about when you're going to hit the ground when you've already fallen over the cliff, right? Because you're going to hit the ground eventually. It's just a question of when. So I think we're already at that point where we're over the edge. And because we're doing what we're doing, now remember, we've already screwed with how credit ratings are calculated. We're not doing the same thing we did in 2005 or 2000, although to 2008, where we simply don't care if you can document your income. We simply redefined what good credit is by adding things into the mix that aren't really things that should be counted as credit-worthy things. That's another show. If you want to find out more about that, go to Sold by Robert or therebelbroker.com. Use the search field to do a search on the topic, and you'll pull up past shows or past articles that I've done on the subject. Okay. So that's brick number one for the wall. Brick number one for the wall is we are doing a ton of adjustable rate mortgages. We are doing a ton of adjustable rate mortgages, at least in my local market. If we want to worry about markets that tend to make everything go nuts and where everybody is spending an awful lot of money, my market, that is what we are doing. Lots and lots of people are doing adjustable rate mortgages, and they are doing them at the top of the marketplace. That seems like setting the stage for bad stuff because as I was leading into with my discussion about inflation, interest rates are just going to go up and up and up. And as they do, more and more people will use adjustable rate mortgages. Adjustable rate mortgages will become the thing. But existing borrowers who borrow money, who rent money using an adjustable rate mortgage are going to find that when the time comes for their adjustable rate mortgage to adjust, it is going to. So we've got a double whammy. So potentially we are setting the stage in a year or 2 years when folks' loans adjust and we have the new reality of interest rates, which could be as high as 10%. Even though they've purchased their home, they haven't locked in their home costs because they've gotten an adjustable rate mortgage. So now they're going to see this dramatic increase in their mortgage when that happens. So A, we're buying at the top of a market using an adjustable rate mortgage. B, some areas are already seeing property values going down. We'll see what happens here. But remember, it's always been a supply and demand math problem. So if we suddenly see that the demand simply goes down far enough, then prices will have to go down. Affordability will simply dictate that you can't sell, because the other part of the equation isn't just inventory, but it's inventory at prices where people can afford to buy. And if you can't afford to buy at a certain price point and you're a seller who has to sell, and remember, we are now in the process of creating people who at some point in the next 2 years may have to sell because they've got an adjustable rate mortgage, and in that case may be upside down in their mortgage if property values go down. Now, I'm not arguing that we're anywhere near a point where we're going to see a 20% decline in property values in my local marketplace. I honestly don't think that happens soon, but I think that there's a potential for it to happen, just like there was when I was talking about this stuff in 2007, 2008. So we are definitely setting the stage to do a rerun of what we did last time. Now, the good news is we do not have an existing backlog of lots of adjustable rate mortgages, but we do have a lot of purchases going on now that are. So the depth of the problem may not be as big, but it's in a market where prices are so insane that we would still be talking about homes that are being purchased for $1.5 to $2 million that suddenly see and what's really nuts is I think that those higher priced homes are likely going to be the ones that get affected first, simply because of the demand we've already talked about. This idea that the affordability is now a big deal because of interest rates. And as interest rates continue to go up, that just becomes a bigger and bigger reality in the marketplace. So I'd love to hear what you think about this, because if I'm even vaguely close to correct, and I'm trying to find faults in my logic, perfectly willing to admit that that might be the case, that I may be missing something, but I'd love to hear from you what you think. And of course, as I mentioned, you can write a comment. If you're consuming it on YouTube, you can make a comment on the YouTube channel. If you're consuming it just as a podcast, you can go to soldbyrobert.com and you can make a comment at the website. You can mail me directly through the website at soldbyrobert.com. Just click on Contact Robert and send me a message. Feel free. I would love to get your feedback. And I'm serious. For those of you who are lenders, I'd love to find out the percentage of loans you're writing right now that are adjustable rate mortgages. I think we are setting a stage to have a very bad time down the road. Again, not something we need to worry about in 2022. Maybe need to start worrying about it a little bit in late 2023, but obviously 2024 would be the hot spot for this. And I guess some people might argue, well, you know what, if we get through this recession, maybe it won't be a problem. Maybe we'll be able to forestall it before it becomes bad. But the problem is these things tend to last about 3 years. So we may find ourselves sort of right when the recession part of this thing is hitting a peak or just after a peak, this starts to become an issue. So we'll have to see what goes there. So not painting a wonderful picture today, not starting your week off with anything wonderful to think about, but at least it's further out. And if you're mentally prepared for these things, if you're considering them as a possibility, I think the possibility of you having a good plan helps prevent you from suffering from what might be coming. I still strongly suggest you get a fixed rate mortgage. I think interest rates are bound to go higher. And granted, this is something human controlled, right? Interest rates to some degree are human controlled in that there's a bunch of folks in really big shiny buildings who decide what the prime rate is. And mortgage rates obviously are more tied to the 10-year treasury, but all of these things end up trickling down at some point and we end up getting these higher interest rates. And since it's controlled by people who think they're doing the right thing, it's going to be interesting to see where that pivot point is. At what point do we stop raising rates and start lowering them to deal with recession? And I don't think we see us doing anything to stop the recession until it is indisputable that we are in a recession. So keep an eye out. I don't think 10% interest rates are out of the realm of reality. It's something that's happened in the past. If all we can do is look back at past events like this and try to judge from that, interest rates could go into the teens. Like, as I've mentioned, when I started in real estate, interest rates were in the teens. People were paying 13, 14% interest rates on homes. And I know that many of us, that's never been true in our lifetimes. But as someone who's lived through it, it's a reality and it happens. So what do you do? Well, if you're a buyer, get a fixed rate mortgage. I don't think you want to think to yourself, wow, interest rates are at the highest they're ever going to go. no. They're going to go much higher. Inflation is continuing to ramp up. I think the last number I saw was 8 point something. Was it 8.6% inflation? And as we've talked about before, if we calculated inflation the way that it was calculated in the 70s and the 80s, it would be much higher. It would be more than double what it currently is, which would mean 16, 17, 18%. So keep that in mind. So definitely get a fixed rate mortgage. You want to lock that number in. You don't want down the road. And the only argument that you could make that would convince me that you should would be that without a shadow of a doubt that you're going to move and sell your home, and there's nothing that's going to stop you from doing that before your adjustable rate mortgage converts over to it being adjustable. So, but that would be it. And that would be a very specific set of circumstances that assumes a whole lot of other things go okay. Particularly if we do see a drop in value, you may be at a point where you would, even if things go well on you doing adjustable rate mortgage and being able to sell before, if values go down, you may end up being upside down. And for those of you who aren't putting 20% down, for those of you who are putting less than 20% down, for those of you putting 3.5% down, right, and just going with mortgage insurance, you do not have to see much of a downturn in order for you to be upside down. So sellers, get that fixed rate mortgage. Buyers, get that fixed rate mortgage. Sellers, I don't think it is unreasonable at all if you're someone in my local marketplace to consider pulling the equity out of your home by selling it. The problem is, obviously, then you have to buy in this marketplace where you've got a higher interest rate. If you've got an amazing interest rate, the reality is maybe you just hold off because the power of your money is so limited right now because of inflation, because of interest rates. All of these things that are tack-on taxes, right? Inflation is a tax, whether you like it or not. And then, of course, the costs of borrowing the money are much higher than they were. If you've got a locked-in rate of a fixed-rate mortgage at 3%, 3.5%, 4%, maybe you delay your plans to relocate, move, whatever, and ride it out. However, one thing I would suggest is if you know you need to move at some point, or you have retirement plans or whatever, I think a window of opportunity may present itself for you to purchase a home you like in the new market where you want to live eventually, and do one of two things. I'd suggest doing the first thing I'm going to suggest, which is go ahead and move to that new home and make it your permanent residence so that you get the preferred interest rate that goes along with being in an owner-occupied home for your mortgage. Then rent out the home that you currently live in. And I realize that might be a struggle, but we're talking about these things with years' notice. So I think that you're going to see an opportunity potentially to get a better deal on homes in other markets in the next year and a half to 2 years. Over this time, we're already starting to see opportunity presenting itself in some markets. There are places right now that are getting hit harder that also saw a lot more growth than other areas. Places like Phoenix, Boise, Idaho. Austin is one that's getting hit, according to an article I just read this morning. But the point being, when those start to adjust and markets start to go down in these other areas, if you can swing it, get yourself the home in this new place when the market takes its downturn. Go and move there if you can, and then rent the place that you've got wherever else you are, right? So if you're a local real estate or local owner of real estate in my market in Santa Clara County, I don't see there being a huge challenge to rentals. And if you are someone who purchased 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago, rents are so high now that your cash flow is going to be good. Obviously, it's a math problem, and it's something I can help you figure out. Feel free to reach out to me again through the website, soldbyrobert.com, because I'm happy to run those numbers for you. But I think those are some smart moves to take advantage of the opportunities that are likely to present themselves over the next couple of years. And for you investors, same thing really as I'm telling my sellers is look for the opportunities. Find those markets that are going to be declining and potentially jump in. I think this could be a great window of opportunity for acquiring real estate once things start to react to the realities of higher interest rates and the other influences that we're talking about here. So jump in and see what works for you. I'd start identifying markets you like or that you think are likely to decline and start tracking them now. You can do that through Realtor.com, or you can look through it through Trulia or Zillow, whatever your preferred tool is, but start paying close attention. And I suggest folks use Realtor.com for the same reason that I expressed in the last Coffee and Real Estate live chat that we did. You can go to a city and you can just sort of hover above it and do your search criteria for what you feel like is a good investment property, and then look for all the red arrows and the green arrows. Green arrows are price reductions. Red arrows are price increases. And you can watch. I mean, it used to be price increases were more common. Now, as we sort of, and go to Facebook. You can go to Facebook or you can go to YouTube. I actually streamed the last live chat on LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all simultaneously. So on any of those platforms, you can find it. The easiest one's probably going to be Facebook. Just search for Whitelaw RE or Rebel Broker. Either way, you're going to find the page where it's posted. And we did a quick look to see what was happening in Phoenix. We did a quick look. I think we also did, I had someone on the show who asked about Indianapolis, so I think we looked there too. We may have also done Morgan Hill. But in any event, it's a great way to get calibrated to drops. I got an interesting email today. I get tons of real estate agent emails, and one of them was a listing that the price had been dropped $150,000. It was a $2 million listing where they dropped it $150,000. So that's the kind of things we're seeing. Interesting things. It's, the great curse is may you live in interesting times. Well, we're there, and I'm going to keep an eye on this stuff and, of course, share it with you as I learn more or figure more out. And hopefully you'll come right along with me. Of course, the goal is to always leave you with more knowledge on the table than you've invested in time. Hope we did that today. Thank y'all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next time.